Using Excel, Vlookup and Hlookup. The Vlookup and Hlookup functions are a means to apply a formula to a cell, which will search the contents of a list, called an array, and return a matching value stored in a specified cell location. Vlookup uses a vertical array, a list in columns. Hlookup uses a horizontal array, a list in rows. For the example below, we can ask if a cell's content matches 40% and less than. In this example, the array is here, two columns with a set of values, 0 to 70%, and a text to be returned, fail, reset, pass, merit, and distinction. If the value of the final percentage award is 41%, the formula will say, here's 40, there's 50. Well, it's not 50, so we'll choose 40 and return reset. In this example, 39, it's not 40, it's less than, so it returns a fail, and a conditional formatting produces it in red bold. And here we have 83, which is 70 or more, and therefore the distinction is returned. Let's have a look at that formula. It is equal Vlookup, vertical lookup, J5, so it finds the value in J5, in this case the 41%, and it will examine that value in the array N5 to 09, which is here, N5 to 09, selecting the entire range in the formula. Look in column 2 of that array in order to find the result that's returned. So it'll find the 41 here, 40, and the column 2 text reset is returned as a result. The final part of the formula, the word true, merely tests are we doing an absolute match, in which case 41 will produce nothing, or an approximate match, in which case the list has to be organized 40, 50, 60, 70, so that we get a from and to value. And this will become clearer in our later example. So let's create our array or our list. I have here 3 columns, each of them labeled, and your columns will differ and your labels will differ, but the process will be much the same. You can either click and select the whole of the set of data that you want and make a note of the from and to addresses. So in this case I have A2, I'm just going to make myself a little note over here, and a colon, although I won't need it yet, and the end of that will be C21. So my range, if I'm going to use that, will be A2 to C21, and that would be a range that I would use in my formula. And don't forget, we can use absolute referencing and include dollar symbols, so that if copied, this range will not move in the formula. The easier process is to name your array, and it's more useful to users who come and look at your Excel spreadsheets later. So for this, I simply left click, highlight all of the values in the range or in the array, and click into the name bar or name box on the top of your Excel spreadsheet and type in a name. Here's array 1, and you can use the number 1. What you can't do is start the array name with a number, and you can't have any spaces. Okay, so any text must start with text, not a number, and you may not have any spaces. Then simply press return or enter on the keyboard, and we now have a named set of values, array. So if I select array 1, and you'll see it'll highlight the whole of that range, that array. So now I'll show you through the process of building the formula, and then we'll examine each of the separate parts of the formula structure. But we're going to start in this cell where we will have equals, and I'll start typing VLOOKUP, and Excel will offer me the VLOOKUP formula. I'm going to double click to accept Excel's completion of that, and it's going to hold my hand through the creation of the other functions of this formula, the other parts. So right now it's asking me for the lookup value. What number or text am I going to search for in this array? And my example is here in E4. That's where the value is stored that I wish to find a result for. Comma will separate the next part of the formula, the table array. Where is the data that I'm searching? Now I can highlight the range again, and you will see Excel will build a range formula in there. However, I'm going to use my array label, and here you can see I started typing array, and Excel then recognizes that luggage label, recognizes the name that I created earlier. So if I double click, it will actually add the name array1 and highlight those values. Comma for the next start, which is column index number. This array has 3 columns. Which column is going to return the value I'm looking for? I'm going to say column 3, which is here, the C column, because I want to find the staff number 12352. What are their pay grade? Okay, so column 3. And then comma, and the last part of the formula, the range lookup. If we have true, it's an approximate match. The values stored that we're searching through have to be in ascending order, A to Z or 1 to infinity. They have to be ascending in order to have approximate matches. In our previous example, 40 to 50% produced a result because it was a sorted list in 40, 50, 60, 70. So with the approximate match, Excel would choose this is a value that's greater than 40 but less than 50. We will take the result alongside 50, which was reset. Because this is an individual, an ID number for a particular staff member, we want an exact match, so a false return. So I just add false into the formula, close the bracket, press return, and my result is B. Let's just test that. 12352 staff individual has a pay grade of B. If I were to edit this search value to 3, that's also B. Let's try 6, and the result becomes a C. We're now looking at a different individual with a different pay grade. Lookup value. That was the number at the beginning of the formula, in this case E4, that has us look where do we find in the data that we want to search in the array. Now this particular example is arranged slightly differently, so my formula here won't specifically work because I'm not looking in E4 anymore. But we can edit that very simply to now look at C, and in this case 1. So this will look at C, sorry it's 2 there, let's just edit that, C2 to find the value from array 1. Now where is that array? This isn't what we were looking at before. I'm currently on a different page of the worksheet. My array is back here, so I still have staff number, payroll and grade, and they're still a named array, and because it is a name I don't have to be on the same page for that formula to work. So let's just have that as an example, and I now need to edit that to be C3, and we have an A. There's no A anywhere on this page, you notice, for staff number 12346. So let's have a look at the array. 12346 is this individual here, and their staff grade is A, which is what we haven't returned. So let's just go in here and edit, our value there highlighted in blue C3, and on this cell in the array C3 is the value that is being searched for. It is the lookup value. In the formula, the table array is the address of the array or list that you're going to search to find the lookup value, which we've already discussed. So the table array in this instance is the array named array1, and that can be found back here where we had it earlier, and that's just our array named array1. Now we could have used the range A2 to C21 to get the same result. So if I edit my array A2 to C21, you'll notice it's looking on this page, okay, because we haven't changed where the array is. I would have to address it to be in the array on the first page, but you can use a range address to represent that range. Let's do it from the other page, and the formula will vary ever so slightly because now it's looking at practice exclamation mark A2 C21 because it includes the name of the other page. That exclamation mark indicates it is looking at another page of the spreadsheet or worksheet. I'm going to go back and edit that to be array1, which is my table array address for this formula. In this formula, the column index number is 3 because our array has, 1, 2, 3 columns, and the column that I want the result from, the pay grade, is column 3. So in our example, if we go to edit, the column index number is 3. In this formula's example, the range lookup is true. Excel is looking for an approximate match between the values in the lookup and the values in the array. In this example, 41% is approximate between 40 and 50, and so a reset, being the lowest available between the two, is returned. If you need to have exactly the match, as in our example using staff ID data, then you would change the formula to read false. We would use an exact match with false. Close the bracket and return. We have a not applicable error because 41 as a value does not exist in this list. If I change the value for reset to 41, we then have a match. When the values don't exist in the table, we have an NA not available error. If I put 41 for the pass, you'll notice we now have pass for our 41. If we wish to use our lookup range as true, an approximate match, again that's working until we change the order of our values. Let's have 70, 60, 50, 40. Everyone gets a fail because the values will no longer sit between our 70s and 60s, 40s and 50s from a top-down perspective. When we're using true as our range lookup, we have to have a sorted list of values. So we will start at 0, 40, 50, 60, 70, and you'll notice that these lookups are working just fine now. You need an ascending sorted list whenever you use a range lookup of true. You don't need a sorted list where you have a range lookup of false, but you do need exact matching data. In this example, we'll create a vertical lookup because our data is sorted in a vertical array to find the payroll number to match the staff numbers listed here in column C. So we start with an equal symbol and the Vlookup command, and I'll double click to allow Excel to hold my hand. What is my lookup value? It's the staff number, in this case it's C2, comma, for the next step, find my table array. If I go to my other page, my table array is here. I don't need all 3 columns in this example, but I'm highlighting for the moment. Remember, you can name these, and I've done so earlier, calling it array 1. So, from array 1, we now need a column index number. My payroll number is in column 2 of that data array, so I wish to place the number 2 as my column index number. The range lookup is got to be exact. The staff numbers are specific and unique to each individual, so I need an exact match, a false return on the formula. Close the bracket, press return. And staff number for Frederick May is allegedly 1012344. 1012344. That seems to be working fine. So now, if we grab the fill handle, drag down through the rest of my column, staff numbers for all of these individuals are located to match, and their payroll number is returned because we have a Vlookup matching their staff number as the lookup value, array 1 as the table in which we have the data from column 2 with an exact match to get the correct data returned. We're going to do the same example again, slightly differently, in order to show the HLOOKUP, horizontal lookup, with pretty much the same data. If I go to my other page, you can see that the data is still staff number, payroll, and grade, but this time it is arranged in a horizontal, or rows, alignment on the page. So the HLOOKUP is really the only difference. It is looking horizontally rather than a vertical column search. We start as before, equals, and this time HLOOKUP, horizontal lookup. We still need a lookup value, which we'll find in C2, comma. We'll go and find our array, which I don't think I've named yet, but it still has a same data set. I'm just going to highlight that here. And now, having found B44 to U46, I just want to make those addresses absolute. But I'll come back to that in just a moment actually. Let's decide the column number is still column 2, but it's now called a row index number. It is no longer a column index number, it is a row index number because we are working horizontally. The row index number in this example is still 2. I still want to find an absolute value, an exact match, so we're using false, close the bracket and press return. Now the value works perfectly for our first, Frederick May, but for future individuals it starts to fail because the array data, if you pay attention, you'll see it changing each time. As we've copied down, the row addresses have incremented. So because I didn't use a named array, I'm going to have to make these absolute references. So you can either insert the dollar symbols or just press F4 on the keyboard with the cursor inserted in the address, and it will automatically input the dollar symbols for you, making this address absolute. So now when you copy down, you have all the results you want. Remembering, if we'd used a named array, named addresses are always absolute anyway. So the only real difference there, H for horizontal lookup when your array is aligned horizontally in rows on your Excel page. After you've been completing some work in your Excel file, you'll want to keep it, more than likely. So on the top left hand corner, look for File, left click, scroll down and look for Save As, left click, choose somewhere on your computer and browse or use a recent folder. We're going to left click on Browse. We will find our Documents library, and somewhere in here we should have, hopefully, an Excel folder. That's where we're going to keep our Excel files because it makes more sense that way. I'm going to left click for file name and overwrite book 1, which is completely useless, and offer instead today's date. Always useful when you're looking for your file again later. The purpose that I'm putting the file to, Excel example office mix. Editor name is often useful as well, and anything else you want. You have lots of space to type in more information. Okay, you don't have to do your file names this way, you'll just find it easier to locate them again later if you do. Our last step is just to press save. It's going to save in an Excel workbook format, so I'll just left click save and the job is done.